Turkey's explosive economic rise that began at the turn of the new millennium was one of the most fascinating growth stories of all time. However, this boom turned into a dangerous bubble that then burst due to sustained political instability and external shocks. And what followed was an unprecedented economic experiment that ended in currency collapse and soaring inflation. Where did it all go wrong? The start of the millennium was a time of economic boom for Turkey. Since the year 2000, the economy has nearly quadrupled in size on the back of an epic boom in consumption and construction, leading to the building of countless malls, skyscrapers, and infrastructure projects. Turkey's largest city, Istanbul, is now the European city with the most skyscrapers. And while this may still be behind global financial centers like Hong Kong and New York, it leads all other European cities, including Moscow and London. Turkey benefits from a young and growing population that provides the country with a large workforce and a large pool of consumers. Turkey's population, which in 1990 was still behind France and Germany, now surpasses the two. And if Turkey were to join the European Union, the size of its population would make it the largest and most dominant member state, an argument often used against granting Turkey membership of the bloc. Things were looking relatively rosy up to the mid-2010s, with the OECD predicting in 2014 that Turkey would be the fastest-growing economy amongst its 35 members over the next 10 years. But things turned out very differently. The biggest risk of Turkey's economy comes from the country's deficit, which makes Turkey dependent on the continued flow of money into the country. But these inflows of foreign investment depend on how the country is perceived by foreign investors. And lately, Turkey's reputation has taken a nosedive. Let's break this down. Why is Turkey running a deficit? Simply put, Turkey spends more money than it earns. This usually happens when a country imports more goods than it exports. In Turkey's case, this is mainly due to its dependency on energy imports, which accounts for more than a quarter of Turkey's imports, as well as machinery and steel. When a country runs a large deficit, it must attract an equal amount of capital inflow. Now, why was money flowing into Turkey? Things were looking up for Turkey in the early 2010s when money was pouring into the country. After the global financial crisis of 2008, interest rates in the US, Europe, and Japan hit rock bottom. This meant investors could essentially borrow money for next to nothing and invest them in high-yielding emerging markets like Turkey, the start of a global carry trade. In Turkey, this resulted in infrastructure booms, an alarming fast growth in loans to consumers, and property bubbles. Remember the many new skyscrapers pushing Istanbul up the global ranking? Why did money stop flowing into Turkey? Things started to change in the summer of 2013 when the global economic outlook started to improve and the US Federal Reserve started to increase interest rates again. As a result, the global carry trade started to dry up. After all, why would you continue to invest in risky markets such as Turkey when you can start earning decent returns in safer and more established economies like the United States again? To offset weak capital inflows, Turkey's President Erdogan flooded the economy with loans from Turkish banks to Turkish consumers. Money was so freely available that loan approvals could be received via text message and directly at ATM machines. In the short term, the increase in private consumption filled the gap in the economy. But in doing so, it sacrificed Turkey's economic future as people reduced their savings and increased their debt and pushed the country to live beyond its means. From here, things started to turn into a broader economic crisis. The currency, the Turkish Lira, collapsed, and inflation started to get out of control. People and businesses started to default on their loans, given these were often denominated in US dollars, meaning people had to come up with more and more Turkish Lira to repay their loans, at a time when, due to inflation, they had less and less disposable income. Turkey's President Erdogan is at war with high interest rates. He believes that high interest rates cause high inflation, the opposite of what most economists believe to be true, and he has taken a hardline approach to keep rates low to stimulate Turkey's economy. Erdogan made a huge bet that his unorthodox economics were right and all of the world's economic experts were wrong. However, recent developments show that his bet is not paying off. When the flow of money into Turkey dried up, the Turkish lira started to come under pressure from investors looking to put their money elsewhere. Usually, to support a currency, central banks can increase interest rates, which increases investor demand again by promising higher returns on their investment. Not so in Turkey, where President Erdogan is so insistent on keeping rates low that he fired 3 heads of the Turkish central bank for attempting to stick to basic economic sense. In 2013, you can exchange $1 for 2 Turkish lira. 10 years later, you can exchange $1 for more than 20 Turkish lira. And there seems to be no end in sight to the lira's freefall. In a country that desperately relies on imports, seeing your home currency lose value quickly can get very dangerous because you need to come up with more and more of your own money to convert into foreign currency to buy your products abroad. Additional pressure came from Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which caused prices to go up for everyone, in particular oil, natural gas, fertilizer, and food, things Turkey desperately needs. Many countries saw their highest inflation rates in decades, and central banks around the world responded by aggressively increasing interest rates. Not so in Turkey, where the central bank further reduced rates, at a time when Turkey's inflation rate was hovering around 80%. Erdogan was failing Economics 101, and the world was watching Turkey's experiment to see what happens when you throw economic textbooks out of the window. Where do we go from here? Turkey's official inflation fell below 40% as the government offered free energy to offset price increases in other goods. The promise was made ahead of the country's general election, which secured Erdogan, who has dominated Turkish politics for 20 years, another 5-year term. Again, it seems that Erdogan uses Turkey's long-term economic future for his personal short-term political gain. The free energy is expected to cost the government $2 billion at a time when Turkey's finances are already pushed to a breaking point. Following Erdogan's re-election, the currency continued its freefall, reaching a new low of 26 Turkish lira to $1. As the dust of the recent election settles, there are signals that Erdogan might move away from his unusual economic policies, as he recently appointed 2 internationally respected officials as the new finance minister and leader of the central bank. It's yet to be seen if Erdogan, who has ruled the country with a tight grip, will give these new officials free rein. What is certain is that the next couple of months will remain interesting as Turkey's bizarre economic experiment enters a new phase. If you enjoyed this video, please like and leave a comment. And if you want to see more content like this, please subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications.